With the 2026 United Bowl in the rearview mirror, we are now in the spring football offseason, but it seems like fresh information about the upcoming 2027 UFL season is already here. Howdy, I'm Logan with Alt Football Archive, and today we're breaking down the latest information online that points to the Birmingham Stallions being moved from Protective Stadium for the 2027 UFL season. This news comes from a tweet from Mike Repole made on Tuesday discussing meetings being held by members of the United Football League's leadership group. Repole has been fairly active online recently following the one-year anniversary of him buying a stake in the UFL and becoming the de facto face of ownership for the 2026 season, joining the ranks of figures like Danny Garcia, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and Redbird Capital. Repole's vision for the Spring League brought lots of changes with new teams, new markets, and most importantly for today's video, a fresh focus on soccer stadiums with all but 2 franchises playing inside venues made for soccer teams. This change was viewed generally positively, but it seems like this shift is not yet over. At the time of this recording, in his latest tweet, he had this to say about the Birmingham Stallions being one of the 2 remaining teams playing in football-first stadiums. Sitting in a senior leadership meeting planning the UFL 2027 season, one thing is becoming very clear. The right market, the right size venue, and a passionate fan base. That's the winning formula. I have a hard time seeing us back at Protective Stadium next year. It goes against one of the biggest principles we're building this league around: smaller stadiums, packed houses, real energy, and a true home field atmosphere. Birmingham, I am looking and I need options and ideas. This is certainly a surprise to see so soon into the offseason, but it isn't unexpected, unfortunately. Mike Repole has a history of challenging the city of Birmingham and the Stallions fan base in the past, and to say that they have a tumultuous relationship might be putting it lightly. Mike Repole in the past spearheaded relocating the Stallions last offseason with the announced focus on smaller venues instead of the traditional big football stadiums that the 2025 UFL had issues filling the stands outside of cities like San Antonio and St. Louis. Last offseason, Mike Repole challenged the Stallions fan base to collect 5,000 season ticket deposits in around a week to ensure that the dominant Birmingham Stallions would stay in their long-term home of Protective Stadium, a challenge that the Stallions faithful quickly answered with a swell of deposits. All this positive momentum, along with the controversial but exciting hire of local collegiate legend A.J. McCarron as their new head coach, had UFL fans hopeful to see historic numbers in Birmingham. But despite a great early showing where the Stallions brought in a record-high attendance of 18,000 fans, attendance unfortunately fell throughout the 2026 season, as the traditionally dominant Stallions faced their first losing record in modern spring football history, finishing with a record of 4-6 under their first-time head coach, only averaging around 5,000 fans by the end of the season. Now, it seems that the pressure is back on in Birmingham, with Protective Stadium the home of the Stallions for the last half-decade, as well as the launching point of the modern USFL back on the chopping block. Now, this tweet poses some interesting questions for the 2027 season for the Birmingham Stallions. Alarmists will probably point to this and speculate on if the Stallions will even be returning to the league in 2027, but I think it's pretty clear from this tweet that this is just another time where Repole is pushing engagement with the Stallions fan base. With the Stallions' great TV viewership ratings in Birmingham and sitting in a football-loving state with no other major professional football teams, I think it's safe to say that the Stallions are safe, way safer than even my Houston Gamers. Repole had made statements about relocation, stating that there's about an 80% chance that all 8 teams return in 2027, which I expect that 20% represents stadium deals and availability. There was a recent posting about jobs for the UFL, and it seems like every other team besides Birmingham was mentioned. Again, I don't want to put too much stake into this, as you know, if there's stadium issues, they may not want to have something in place yet. We'll just have to see. I'm pretty sure they had something like this happen before where Houston wasn't mentioned, but Houston still continues to be a team, so I want to put too much stake into it, but you know, if you are concerned about it, that is something to think about. A question that comes to mind for spring football junkies is if this really is marking the end of the Stallions' 5-year run in Protective, which saw 3 back-to-back league championships and 4 playoff appearances. Like I said before, this isn't the first time Repole has floated the idea of leaving Protective Stadium, but he does seem pretty forward about the team more likely than not moving. Still, he seems to have a love-hate relationship with the city of Birmingham, and I wouldn't be surprised if this results in another challenge to try to re-energize the fan base. After all, promising markets like San Antonio and Detroit weren't given these kinds of tweets before their teams were moved last offseason. Same with teams like the Houston Gamblers and Dallas Renegades, who had their venues changed quietly without all these kinds of online theatrics. Unfortunately, we may just have to wait and see what comes, as more discussion is no doubt currently underway at the UFL HQ. Of course, the biggest question raised by this tweet is if the Stallions won't be playing in Protective Stadium in 2027, then what venue will they be calling home next season? Like I had mentioned before, this isn't the first time Repole has proposed moving the Stallions to a different stadium. Just last offseason, amid his challenges with the Stallions fanbase, was the idea of moving the team to Hoover Metropolitan Stadium, a multi-use baseball stadium within the market with a seating capacity of around 10,800. This move seemed to be unpopular with fans last offseason for a number of reasons outside of Protective being the traditional home of the Stallions. One of the biggest reasons being the size of the stadium. Protective dwarfs Hoover Met with a seating capacity of around 47,000, and a move would mean the Stallions would go from playing in the second largest stadium in the UFL all the way down to playing in the smallest if this move were to occur. Repole in last offseason had set an attendance goal of 10,000 fans on average at every home game, and Hoover Met would just barely be meeting that threshold. Another barrier to the move is distance. Protective Stadium sits near the heart of downtown Birmingham, and a move to the Hoover Metropolitan Stadium would mean moving half an hour south out of the city. I'm not from Birmingham, so I don't know exactly what would be expected for the experience for fans, but to me, that sounded like if the Houston Gamblers were moved from Shell Energy Stadium out 30 minutes outside of Houston to Constellation Field in Sugar Land, and it would definitely make commuting from north of the city way further of a drive and way less fun for fans. And this may be a minor reason, but for fans like me who had been watching spring football back in 2023 when the XFL relaunched, you probably also have flashbacks to poor field quality seen at Cashman Field in Las Vegas when you hear that Hoover Metropolitan Stadium is a baseball stadium. I know not all baseball stadiums are made equal, and Hoover Met is home to other big televised events like the SEC baseball tournament, so its presentation will likely be much better. But with the league's focus on soccer-first venues, it might still leave the stadium feeling a little bit out of place. And of course, in the nature of doing these videos, on the day of, whenever I'm finishing up this section, news comes out from Mike Repole saying that they did look into Hoover Met, but unfortunately, the stadium just doesn't have the availability offered for the spring seasons. So unfortunately, it looks like Hoover Metropolitan Stadium is out of the running as the stadium for the Birmingham Stallions, and if they wish to stay in Birmingham, they will either have to find another workable venue or try to make a deal with Protective Stadium that makes it more lucrative for the team to stay. This, of course, is a breaking news story and one that will no doubt develop over the course of the off-season as discussions continue, and we will be following it here at the Archive. I myself have reservations about if this really is the end for Protective Stadium serving as the home of the Stallions. My initial reaction was much like everyone else's, but I feel like these posts are more of a gauge for the community rather than being a true final decision announcement. Plus, with the short window for the season ticket deposit challenge last season and the open-ended nature of this tweet, I have a feeling that these posts are made more to put pressure on the folks in Birmingham and at Protective Stadium themselves to give the league a better deal by firing up the fan base and telegraphing that the league is totally fine with simply moving their team to another venue rather than being a traditional message or challenge to the fan base themselves. Of course, that might be a cynical take on my end, so if you're a Stallions fan or familiar with the market, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If the Stallions were to move stadiums, which stadium do you think would be the best fit? Or if they were to move to a nearby market, which one would you think? I don't think that's going to be the case, but it will be floated around, so I thought I'd throw it out there. It seems like there's new information starting to come out now for the 2027 season, so you don't want to miss a thing. Like the exciting changes just announced for fan replica jerseys being sold in the UFL shop. So if you're interested in content covering changes like that, as well as in-depth looks into other alternative football leagues during this offseason, you want to make sure that you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a thing. And if you've tuned into this video, I want to give you a very special thank you for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next upload.